Jerry spoke with a sharp edge in his voice. I built that house with my own hands, so it's mine. Since we're separating, you'll need to move out. With your part-time job, I don't think you'll be able to manage on your own. He sneered, handing her the divorce papers. Nancy, at 35 years old, had worked part-time at a local supermarket for a few months. She had met Jerry 4 years ago at work, and after they married, they both quit their jobs. Though Nancy had initially wanted to keep working, Jerry had insisted she stay home, so she became a full-time housewife. She had missed her job at first but eventually longed to return to the workforce. After many discussions, she finally secured a part-time position. Meanwhile, they had been trying to start a family, but so far, they hadn't had any luck. Nancy had also wanted a cat, but Jerry hated them, so that dream had to be abandoned. At first, Jerry had been content with her staying home, but as soon as she began working part-time, things started to change. He began nitpicking everything. You went to work again today, huh? The house is getting messy. Is this laundry all wrinkled? You're not keeping up with things. He would complain. That wasn't true. She had cleaned everything before going to work, and the laundry had been folded perfectly. What are you talking about? Everything is as it should be. The house is clean. Can't you see that? She retorted, frustrated by his accusations. Even the meals weren't spared. Fried chicken again? Can't you cook something else? He grumbled. She barely made fried chicken, and when she did, she tried to make a variety of meals, especially since it was his favorite. I've been making your favorite fried chicken, and I'm always trying new recipes, she defended herself, but no matter how hard she tried to explain, he only grew angrier. Are you saying your part-time job is too demanding? Stop pretending like it's important. It barely pays anything. You're only working because you're selfish. You didn't need that job in the first place. And make sure the house is in order. Don't blame it on not having time. It's embarrassing that you're working for such a low wage. Jerry raged. He constantly belittled her job and insisted that she stay home so others wouldn't think they were struggling financially. His words were cruel, leaving Nancy feeling humiliated and angry. Jerry would boast about how his salary covered everything, making her feel as if her contributions didn't matter at all. Then, they decided to visit Jerry's parents, whom they hadn't seen in a while. Though she still felt irritation toward him, Nancy welcomed the change of pace. After a few hours on the road, they arrived at his mother's house. His mother greeted them with a warm smile, and after a lovely dinner she prepared, Jerry left to play slot machines, leaving Nancy to clean up with her mother-in-law. But as Nancy rinsed the dishes, she sensed a shift in her mother-in-law's mood. She wasn't as calm as before, and her face grew serious. As Nancy made coffee, her mother-in-law sat beside her with a somber expression. Nancy, I've heard from Jerry that you're working part-time. Why do you need to work when Jerry has such a good job? He says you're neglecting the house because of it, she said, catching Nancy off guard. That's not true. I'm handling everything just fine, Nancy replied, surprised by the sudden confrontation. Her mother-in-law's face hardened. I've heard Jerry complain about how poorly you keep up with the house. He's been dealing with everything on his own, and he's exhausted. He comes home to a messy house and no proper meals. You need to quit that part-time job. Your workplace can find someone else to fill your role. Your real job is to take care of this house, and you need to support Jerry properly. Don't embarrass yourself or him as his wife. Her words echoed with the weight of deeply ingrained traditional beliefs. She had married right after school, never worked a day, and fully embraced her role as a stay-at-home wife. Jerry had grown up in a similar environment, where the wife's place was solely in the home, and that had shaped his expectations for our marriage. Yet, despite knowing this, my mother-in-law's harsh words still cut me to the core. At my part-time job, I felt valued and respected, an environment far removed from the dismissive attitudes at home. It was a place where my contributions mattered, where I was seen as capable and important. So, to hear that I was being dismissed as lazy and useless was devastating. I had worked hard to balance my job and household responsibilities, and it hurt deeply to be so misunderstood. It was a shock to learn that my mother-in-law had been fed lies about me by Jerry, despite my efforts to keep everything running smoothly at home, all while managing my part-time job. Jerry had been speaking ill of me behind my back. I was doing my best to support him, aware of the pressures of his job, yet he was undermining me in private. Hearing him speak poorly of me over the phone, with his mother's approval, felt like a betrayal I couldn't ignore. At first, I could hardly process the pain of it all. In the days that followed, my mind kept returning to my father. Since my mother passed away, he had been living alone in the family home, quite far from me. I hadn't seen him much lately due to my busy schedule, but in this moment of emotional turmoil, I needed to hear his voice, so I called him, anxiously waiting for him to pick up. His delayed response only deepened my concern, until finally, he answered. Nancy, it's been a while, are you well? He asked, his calm voice offering me some comfort, though tears welled up in my eyes. I was worried when you took so long to answer, I said, my voice trembling. If you're busy, I can call back later. No, it's fine, he replied. I had a little accident. I fell down the stairs and hurt my back. I'm having trouble moving around, but I'll be alright soon. Don't worry about me. So, what's going on with you? Is everything okay? I was stunned. My father, the man who had always been active and healthy, had fallen and hurt his back. No, I'm okay, I replied quickly, trying to hide my worry. But please take care of yourself, rest up, and I'll come visit you soon. Yeah, I'm fine, he said, but I couldn't shake the image of him struggling in his home. His injury was more concerning than he let on. At his age, recovery would take time, and the risk of further injury was a real fear. The stairs in our old family home, especially the steep ones by the front door and in the bathroom, worried me more than I could express. The thought of him risking another fall was unbearable. I could no longer ignore the situation. It became clear that I needed to live closer to him, to ensure he was safe and to offer him the help he needed. What had once seemed like a distant wish now felt like a pressing necessity. I decided that I would build a new, safer home for him nearby. I had access to some funds, inherited from my grandfather through rental properties that had been passed down to me. My father had transferred them to my name, advising me to keep the money from Jerry. The income had been saved for years, and now it would be used to build a new home for my father. The thought of providing such an important gift to him, especially after years of not being able to do as much for him, filled me with purpose. Building the house would be expensive, and I knew I couldn't keep it from Jerry. Nervously, I brought up the idea to him, bracing for his reaction. To my surprise, he seemed to understand at first. I get it. It makes sense to build a new house for him considering his age, he said with a nonchalant shrug. If you think you can handle it, go ahead. Just don't expect me to help if things get difficult. His dismissive tone stung, but I held my tongue. It was easier not to argue, so I immediately began searching for a contractor and getting the process underway. However, it soon became clear that Jerry wasn't truly supportive of the idea. His indifference was palpable, and his silence spoke volumes. He would usually voice his opinions, but his lack of response felt off. My suspicions were confirmed when I discovered that $5,000 had been withdrawn from our joint account. I couldn't remember authorizing such a large transaction, and I knew there was only one other person who could have made that withdrawal, Jerry. I confronted Jerry, my voice steady but filled with frustration. I noticed today at the bank that $5,000 is missing from our living expenses. Do you know anything about this? I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. His response was dismissive, as if my concern was beneath him. I gave it to my mother. You said you were building a house, so I figured you must have been saving up somewhere. $5,000 isn't a big deal, he said, shrugging as if it was a minor, everyday transaction. I stared at him, incredulous. Why would you give her that money? Your mother isn't struggling, and that money was meant for our daily needs. It wasn't yours to take without discussing it with me first. It's not fair, Jerry. My voice quivered with frustration. His casual misuse of our finances without consulting me felt irresponsible and selfish. This wasn't just about money, it was a sign of how little respect he had for me and our partnership. During our heated exchange, Jerry shot back angrily, his words laced with venom. What do you know about my mother? She needed help, and I'm her son. What's wrong with me helping her out? That money was earned by me, so how I spend it is none of your business. If you're so bothered by it, try earning as much as I do with your part-time job. You can't say anything now, can you? Don't ever complain about what I do again. With that, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. His outburst left me reeling. I had always trusted him, despite his sharpness, and I had hoped we could have discussed this calmly. Did he think I would object to helping his mother, or did he just not trust me enough to include me in his decision? Our marriage, which should have brought us closer together, now felt like a chasm between us. Jerry was treating me like I didn't have a right to voice my concerns about our money, and the next morning, he acted as if nothing had happened. He went about his day as usual, leaving for work after breakfast with barely a glance in my direction. I chose not to argue, though the unease gnawed at me. Amidst the tension at home, the construction of the new house for my father was finally completed. Despite everything going on, the contractors had been incredibly supportive, and I had managed to create a beautiful, safe home for my dad. I was excited. He would be able to move in soon. As moving day approached, I hired movers to pack up his belongings, making sure he wouldn't have to do any of the heavy lifting. With just 3 weeks to go before the move, I couldn't wait to give him the new home he deserved. Then, as we discussed the final details, Jerry dropped a bombshell. That house isn't for your dad, he said, his voice firm. It's going to be for my mom. I have the right to decide who lives in the house I helped build, and it's going to be my mom. His words left me speechless. I fought back, shocked and defiant. I built that house. It's for my dad. You didn't build it. You didn't pay for it. It's my money that funded it, not yours. Don't act like you're entitled to it. But Jerry seemed to believe, with complete conviction, that the house was his to give away. When we had first discussed the idea of building it, he had been supportive, but now it was clear that he had always intended for it to be a home for his mother, not my father. The situation felt grossly unfair, and now, I found myself having to prove that the funds were mine, something I had wanted to avoid. I knew I had to tell Jerry the truth about the rental income one had quietly saved for years. You're just making up stories because you want the house for yourself. If you're going to lie, at least make it believable, Jerry sneered, clearly disbelieving. He stormed off, leaving me feeling completely lost. But I couldn't back down, I had to make him understand the truth. When Jerry returned, his anger had escalated. "You tried to trick me, saying you built that house. You're a liar," he yelled, his face red with fury. "That house is mine because I helped build it. You need to leave, even if we break up. I don't think you can survive on that part-time salary of yours." His words stung deeply, but they also hit me with a harsh reality. Jerry wasn't just angry, he was determined to control everything. The final blow came when he slammed a set of divorce papers on the table in front of me, laughing cruelly. "Sign this and get out tonight," he sneered. The papers were already filled out on his end. I stared at them, unable to comprehend how things had escalated so quickly, and a deep sense of betrayal washed over me. After all the demeaning treatment, Jerry's dramatic move of presenting the divorce papers was a new low. I realized that he probably thought threatening divorce would force me to give in and allow his mother to move into the house. But what he didn't know was that I had enough financial independence to stand my ground. This was the final straw. Without hesitation, I signed the papers, handed them over, packed my bags, and left for my father's house. When I arrived, my dad was surprised to see me with so much luggage, but he welcomed me with open arms. After I explained everything, he gave me a comforting pat on the back. "You've been through a lot, but you can stay with me in the new house. It will make me happy," he said warmly. The moving day went smoothly, and with my help, we were able to settle in without a hitch. It felt good to be in a fresh start with my dad, and I couldn't help but notice that Jerry hadn't contacted me after the chaos of the divorce papers and his claim over the house. I chose not to dwell on it, he was now a stranger to me. But just a few days after we moved in, something unbelievable happened. A loud commotion outside caught my attention. When I looked out the window, I saw a large moving truck parked right outside. I rushed out, confused, to find out what was going on. To my shock, the movers explained that the house was being claimed by my ex-husband, Jerry, who was attempting to take possession of the home he had insisted was not mine. It quickly became clear that he and his mother had plans to move into the very house where my father and I were living. Jerry's audacity was infuriating. Not only had we just divorced, but now he was trying to forcefully take over the house, something that felt utterly invasive and unsettling. Fear gripped me as I saw the movers. Unsure of what was happening, I immediately told them to stop, explaining the situation. I then turned to my father and called the police. When the officers arrived, I explained everything, and they confirmed that since the house was legally mine and I was now divorced from Jerry, he had no rights to the property. His presence there would be considered trespassing. When Jerry and his mother arrived on the scene, their faces showed panic as they realized they were in the wrong. The police began questioning them, and Jerry, losing his composure, shouted, "What's going on? Why can't I live in this house?" At that moment, I knew I had to protect my father and myself from further manipulation. I presented the police with crucial evidence, including footage of the verbal abuse I had endured from Jerry. The footage, which I had captured using surveillance cameras, showed me handling all the housework while enduring his harsh words and insults. It was clear proof of the emotional toll he had taken on me. The police quickly intervened, and the situation was brought under control. Jerry and his mother, who had thought they could bully me into submission, now found themselves facing serious consequences. It didn't take long for Jerry's life to unravel. In his desperation to move into the house, he had cancelled his apartment lease and sold his mother's house, leaving them both without a place to go. The movers, who had been hired under false pretenses, charged him a breach of contract fee, and with his belongings now on the street, Jerry and his mother had nowhere to turn. The footage I provided also supported my case against Jerry, revealing his abusive behavior. I hired a lawyer and pursued legal action, ultimately securing a settlement. The legal fees, the costs from the moving fiasco, and the settlement drained Jerry's finances, leaving him and his mother with no choice but to move into a rundown apartment. Word of Jerry's troubles spread quickly at his workplace. His colleagues, seeing his true character, distanced themselves, and he found himself isolated. It was a stark contrast to the man he used to be, and now he was looked down upon by everyone at his company. As for me, life took a much brighter turn. I adopted a cat, which brought immeasurable joy into my daily life. My father's back fully healed, and we even started planning a trip with the cat. The settlement money I received helped me open a shop specializing in cat products. It wasn't easy at first, and there were many challenges, but the business gradually grew and is now thriving. Every day feels peaceful, and I'm genuinely happy with how far I've come. I never imagined that standing up for my father would lead to such positive changes, but I know it was the right decision. And recently, there's been another exciting development. Someone who regularly visits my shop, always kind and engaging with both people and cats, has become a special part of my life. We're planning to go for a drive together, and I'm looking forward to embracing the happiness and freedom that this new chapter has to offer.